section 3.6. This is the very last section of chapter 3, and we're going to talk about lines and different forms of a line in the coordinate plane. And this is a blast from the past. I am not kidding you. Let's take a look at this chart. We've got point slope form. Put this in your electronic notebook and write that particular equation down. If you know the slope of the line and one point, doesn't matter what the point is, and you know the slope of the line, you can write it in this particular form, which is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity, and you need parentheses here around x minus x1. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. That's just one of those things that I told you guys, hey, you don't want to leave Algebra 1 unless this is memorized. Well, it's coming back to haunt us now, isn't it? The equation of a vertical line is always in the form x equals a, and a is any number. That's the x-intercept. Vertical, it's a vertical line. That's your x-intercept. And it's a vertical line through that particular number on the x. So it's always going to be in the form of x equals some number, whatever that number is. And then your equation for your horizontal line is always y equals some number, where it crosses the y-intercept, wherever that number is. So these are very important things to write down. And what they're going to challenge us to do in example 1 is write equations of lines. So some of you didn't like this last year. We're doing it again. So sorry. We got to review this and get good at it again. So here's the information we have in letter A. The line, we need to write a line with slope 3 going through point 2, 1, and we want us to write it in point slope form. So remember, point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. We're filling in for 3 things, and I'll put a little asterisk. We need to fill in for slope, which is m, and then for x1 and y1, which is the point. They gave us the slope, they gave us a point, and we just need to insert them in their appropriate positions. Remember, the 2 is going to be your x1, and your 1 is the y1. Slope of 3, that's where you're going to put in the m position. So y minus, well, we're going to go after this number right here. Y minus 1 is equal to slope of 3 times the quantity x minus 2. And so we just wrote the equation in point slope form, and they're not asking us to convert it into anything else. That's what they wanted. We gave it to them. All right, flip the page. All right, now they want a line that goes through 0, 4, and the other point, -1, +2, and they want us to write this in slope-intercept form. So we need to do y equals mx plus b. Okay. Well, in order to write slope-intercept form, you have to know the slope and you have to know the y-intercept. Now, I always look at my points to see if they maybe gave us the y-intercept, and hey, look at that. That's a special point. When x is 0, y is your y-intercept, okay? That's your y-intercept. So we already know that b is equal to 4. So all we have to do is figure out what m is. And we can do that using the slope formula very easily. So this is just one way to do it. Your book actually did it a different way. But I'm doing it yet another way because it seems to me to be a little bit easier. So you could do 2 minus 4 over -1 minus 0. And it looks like we got -2 over -1. Which is +2. Now we have enough to write our equation. And there it is. Y equals 2x, 2 is your slope, 2x plus 4, 4 is your y-intercept. Okay? Now, if you didn't recognize that point that I just showed you, if you didn't recognize that, let me get this erased again. There we go. Take that out. I'll just write over the top of that. Sorry about that, guys. sometimes the book gives you too many hints, and I want you to use your brain and not just rely on everything that the book says. All right, so here's another way you could have done that. You could have said, well, I don't recognize that this is the y-intercept at all. Okay, well, that still means that you're going to use the slope formula. No matter what, you're going to use the slope formula to calculate the slope. You're not going to get away from that, okay? So I'll just reiterate that again. -2 over -1, and you're going to have a slope of 2. Now, instead of, okay, let's say, okay, I don't recognize any of those points as being my y-intercept. That's fine. You don't have to recognize it, but you do have to pick one of these points to plug in for the x and for the y so you can solve for b. So you can take your m and then pick one of these points and plug it in and go, okay, well, I want to plug in -1, 2, or I want to plug in 0, 4, because 0 is an easy number to calculate with. That's fine. You can do 0, 4, put your 4 right there, put your 2 that you calculated for the slope right there, put 0, which is x, right here, plus b. And then do your basic calculations. 2 times 0 is 0, 0 plus b is b, and I just figured out that slope is 2, y-intercept is 4, y equals 2x plus 4. So I just showed you 2 ways to do this, and that's not even the only 2 ways to do it, okay? All right, let's look at letter C, last one for this example. The line with x-intercept 2. Well, an x-intercept means you move on the x, but not on the y. That's an x-intercept. The y-intercept is 3, so you don't move on the x, you only move on the y. And they want us to write this in point-slope form. Well, we have a slope, or we have a point, we have 2 points. What we don't have is the slope, so that's easy enough to calculate. We'll do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and let's do 3 minus 0 over 0 minus 2. That'll be 3 over -2. So our slope is -3/2. Okay, no big deal. We got that. If I did it the other way, I would have gotten 0 minus 3. That would have been -3 over 2 minus 0, which is +2. So it didn't matter. Still, no matter what, that slope is negative. Doesn't matter where it ends up in the numerator or the denominator. So you can pick either one. Point-slope form, you pick any given point that you know is on the line to accompany your slope. So let's say if we choose this one, I'll do it 2 ways. Let's choose 2, 0. The 2 will be my x1, and the 0 will be my y1. So I could write it like this. Y minus 0 equals -3/2 times the quantity x minus 2. So there's one of the ways I could have done it. Or I could have done it this way. Y minus 0 equals -3/2 times x minus 3. I'm sorry, y minus 3, got those backwards. Y minus 3 is equal to -3/2 times x minus 0. So you can see I have 2 different answers, but they're both the answers in this case, because it just depends on the point that you choose to plug in. It depends on that point. All right? So if you have questions, bring those to class tomorrow. Thanks for listening.